So now I'm going to introduce you to John. Come on down. And Sarah. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and why you're here.
Cool. I'm John Hunter.
Just pop your mic over.
I'm John Hunter, and I don't know how to use the microphone. I'm the Emergent Technology Director at Tendeka. We're a low completions technology company. And I'm here to share some of our experiences of doing internal innovation and the results we've had from that, and set you and your organisations a bit of a challenge.
So, Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about why you were interested in that at the OGTC?
Okay. So, backtrack a little bit. It's a week of firsts for us in the Wales team at the OGTC. So it's our first Tech20 event. So thank you, John, for coming along, and thank you, everyone, for attending. But it's also the week of the end of our first field deployment trial with the Tendeka technology. So that was our partnership with John. And one of the reasons we wanted John to come and talk today, because it's such a fantastic example of an innovation strategy being used within a company in the northeast of Scotland and delivering results. So this isn't just speaking about innovation as a topic. This is talking about innovation that's happened here, how it's happened, how we can do it, and how we can deploy those to real field trials and real examples of technology in the northeast.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so on that note, it is over to you, John. Your 20 minutes start now.
Thank you. Thank you for coming along. I appreciate we've got busy days, but I guess there's some free food and things and good. So I'm going to talk for 20 minutes. I'm probably going to talk for a lot less than that, and ask me lots of questions at the end. I started off with this, I'm not an innovator, get me out of here. So the question is, who here would say they're an innovator or do innovative things? Are we all going to put our hands up, or are you an innovator? Yeah. So we sat here 6-7 months ago, an OGC event, and Sarah asked people if they're innovative. Not many people put their hands up. By the end of the thing, I think we had the same question, everybody had their hands up. And we'll go through this, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll either see that you are a part of the innovation journey or you're going to be. So, a bit about me. I believe that most things can be made better by people like you and me, and I really believe that. So I spend a lot of my time developing new products and technologies, but I'm becoming more and more passionate about inspiring other people to do the same. And we've been doing that internally, and part of today is trying to start doing that externally. So, I don't know if we've heard of a gentleman called Sir Ken Robinson. He speaks about education and about how children change over time. And he has a statistic that 98% of all children are creative, innovative, disruptive. They can build things and fail and not get upset, although they get a little bit upset. My kids do when Lego falls apart, but they go back and build it. And, you know, they test and they fail and they build and they learn from that. By the time we get to adults, it's only 2%. I think I would be more generous and say it's 10-15%. But still, what happens with people in that sort of 3-4-year-olds, obviously early 30s like myself, and things like that, what happens? And there's no biological reasons for it. And research suggests that you can probably get half the people back to be creative and disruptive. We actually don't need everybody to be creative and disruptive. There is a place for people who turn up every day and do the same job, turn up the next day and do the same job. There's still a lot of jobs like that. But in the culture and the market we're in here in Aberdeen and oil and gases, we do need to be innovative because our competitors in Norway and other places are being innovative, are being creative, are being disruptive. So it's great to see groups like your GDC starting and having an immensely successful first year and bringing new products to the market. And I kind of believe with that UK oil and gas that we're all part of will flourish. So how do we get to the point where we can be innovative? So winding back a bit, the reason why we started doing something in our company is that we're found by venture capitalists, so we're 5 companies that have been put together, so we acquired a lot of technology. And we've had 9 years of success of commercialising that. And I looked around one day and realised all the technology we have was invented by people who'd either left the business or were in the acquisition. There wasn't any people left in the business that invented any of our products. And I'm like, well, where are we going to get our new products from? We had a good system to make bigger, faster, cheaper, more reliable, more capable versions, but where's our innovative come from? And the nature of our business is we have products that the people don't have. So we can't compete with the big boys because you never can, because they'll beat on service, delivery, cost, relationships, footprint. But if you have a technology they don't have, your client can't ignore you. So I decided to do an experiment based on that Ken Robinson at 92%, that could we get everybody woke up? And I'll go through that process in the middle. But the start of this is permission and safety. There's only two things you need to be creative. You've got to feel you've got permission to do it, and you've got to feel safe. And they tie in a lot. So I would go as far as to say it has to be mandatory. If your company wants new products, you have to say to your staff, you've got to come up with new ideas. And that's difficult because people don't feel safe, particularly in a downturn market, and probably only until recently, I guess a lot of people in businesses have been thinking they've been lucky to survive the month in a lot of companies. And that's probably common for a lot of people. They just want to get their heads down, keep the job, and that. So we've got to give people safety and give them a bit of time. So yeah, take 10 minutes every day to think about how you could have done that better, or how could you improve the job, because they are the best people to work out how to do that thing better. So it could be a process or a product, and give them a bit of flexibility, make them feel safe. So going back to the children, I don't know who has young children here, but I've got a daughter in P3, and in P1 and 2, they would always put the hand up for every question. Everybody, and the kids were desperate for that approval, put your hand up. Even in P3, they're frightened to get it wrong and keep the hands down. And as we get to adults, I asked you about innovators, only about 3 people put the hand up. As we get to adults, people just don't want to step out and they're frightened. I don't have the answers for that, but in companies, if we say to people, fine, you need to come up with these ideas because we need to flourish. So permission and safety. So the way we did it, I went to see our CEO at the time and said, right, I've got this idea of doing something, can I do it? And he gave me permission and felt safe to do it. I didn't tell him it's an experiment. It's never a good idea to say to your manager you want to do an experiment, because you think, no, generally experiments go wrong. So we started what we call our Spark program. So it's really coincidental but quite good that the OGTC used Spark as the start of their program. And the start of our new product development process is the Spark program. It's the spark of the idea at the beginning where we capture it. So what we do, what does the Spark program do? So the premise is everybody can be creative. So we organised a bit of initial training and showed people what the skills, what you need. One of the strong points we made that we don't want people to be innovative. It's really scary. If you're sat there coming up with ideas, if you don't think your idea is innovative and world-changing, you're not going to do anything about it. The problem is we don't need huge ideas. We need little ideas. Apple iPhone needs hundreds of little ideas that create an innovative product. So we want people to come up with little bits. And we're all aware in oil and gas that if we get 1 or 2% extra production from an asset, the client's going to be very excited. So we're looking to make tiny little differences. In our industry, it makes a big deal. So we sat down. We did 4 sessions because so many people got involved, and we invited everybody in the company. So it was really, really interesting. Chief executive didn't come. None of the officers did because he felt culturally that would stifle people. I totally understand that. And not a single person with engineering the title turned up, but almost everybody else from the company turned up. It's changed now. They have got engaged. But so we sat down. We look at examples of innovation. We look at how Apple are innovative, how people like Dyson are. We tried to find some real innovations in oil and gas. And there's lots of really great ideas, but we're still doing things the same way we did 30, 40 years ago. So we concluded that we need ideas. So our program is Spark Ideas Innovation, but it's all about coming up with ideas. So we sat down and looked at different things. So I guess to move on. So when I swiped it earlier, it just died. So. Cool. So in all... Okay, you sure? In all teams that are innovative and creative, there's these 5 skill sets shown. Very, very few people can do all 5 different things in here. Most people can do 1 or 2, but you need somebody in your teams that do this. And the way we did it, we just threw people in a room, and you can actually find that people adopt roles. So I'll go through the 5 of them. Ask. Some people will ask questions, will want to make things better, can go, and these are also the people who go, that's not very good, who complain, it needs to be better, it needs to be better. These people are really valuable, and they help you build the problem out and understand what it is. There's then the skill set of looking, so these are the people who can then observe the problem maybe and get into the client's shoes, or also people who just see the world around them and can see lots of other ideas and observant, but then they don't know what to do with that. Skip that one out. The creative people are what we might traditionally think as the inventors, the innovators, the people who's going to go into the shed and build something, or to go into the scruffy bench in your workshop and build some widget that does something, and test it. And then the failing people are those who are going to test it for you, but fail it. But the ones who are going to say, it's never going to work. And we get really, as a product, I hate those people. They go, it's never going to work, it's never going to work. You know what, you need that because you need to defeat them. And eventually, if you've got a great idea, believe in it, you need somebody to refine you and push you back. And eventually, they'll go, oh yeah, it will work. And you need that devil's advocate. But the most important people generally are the mixed people, and that's why they're in the middle. This is Steve Jobs, to some degree, and other people, is that, oops, I go back. Right. You've got a problem. I should stop touching it. I've got a problem. You've got people finding solutions in other technologies. You've got people inventing things and people kicking it to bits. But it's chaos because you never get there. And what you need is the mixing people who go, you know that problem you mentioned? Well, he's got a solution. I've seen it. So what happens in our Spark sessions is people do this. And there's actually people you can see who come up with none of the ideas, have no technical input, have no understanding of the client, but turn around and say, he just solved your problem, and then mix it together. And that's all Steve Jobs did. And people like that is join up the great ideas and the problems. And these are really, really valuable people. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not an innovator, but yet you've been in a meeting and you've just said 2 or 3 things that's joined people together and been in a team, then you are part of the innovation journey. And chances are, if you weren't in that meeting or that group discussion, that idea would have never come out. So what's the result? So it's fairly outstanding. We set a target from our Spark Club to come up with one idea, something we might develop into a product, something that maybe we could bring to our GTC. But we massively exceeded that. So in the second session, we presented a problem that some will understand is that wireless downhole devices rely on batteries. And batteries, probably you can get 7 years out of them downhole in the temperatures, and that's it. And that's the same for us, Omega, Metro, Intwell, all sorts of other companies using these things. So we thought of the problem, how do we get power to last for life of well downhole? And if you put that to our engineering group, you get some answers. You put that to random people, that includes receptionist, admin, supply chain, health and safety, workshop staff. You get loads of ideas from, or if you put zinc-plated screws and lemons, you get electricity. You can, potato clocks. You could use nuclear. So nuclear is a great solution, but imagine trying to export that, you know, and imagine trying to build it in your workshop. So we're around loads of things. And the technical issue with downhole batteries is the chemicals interact with each other and build up a layer across a membrane. But if those chemicals are not in contact, they don't degrade. So we filed a patent based on manufacturing the batteries downhole rather than on surface. And because we manufacture them downhole, before they're manufactured, they don't decay. So the patent's on with that, and we're doing research with the university, and it's really, really promising that we believe we can give significant energy for 20 plus years downhole. And you know, hopefully OGDC will be getting involved in that at some point. I think they're interested. So great results from doing it. And what's great about that thrill to me and people is the 3 inventors of that are myself. I'm going to invent a new telly. The supply chain director and a health and safety assistant. And those 2 people would never think they'd be involved in our innovation process. And because of that, our engineering team have now got engaged because they're like, oh, actually, I wish we'd have been involved in that. So now they want to engage. So we generate lots of ideas, but it's important to remember this is not artwork and it's not creative and innovation for the sake of it. So we say, oh, look, we're a really innovative company. We have to be a business. So all products have to be technically feasible, and most product development groups are really good at that, working through stuff that will actually work, pass the qualification, work in operation. Viable is really difficult, and a lot of products fail because it costs too much to make and develop than you can sell them for. And in our market, the margins and the costs are down now, so it is quite difficult. And it's got to be desirable. So we as a company in the past, and lots of companies, have had really feasible products that are just a great, you know, really good technical. They can make money out of it, and they get running one well, and that's it, and they never get seen again. And we can probably all think of products where it's just been run once and been funded. So one of the strong points with OGC engagement is they go, yeah, that's exciting. You've got a client who's interested, but then they go, who else is interested? And if you can't put a business case, say, well, yeah, we're going to run it for company X and this installation, but these 10 other companies think they're going to run 5 in the next few years, and here's a market, then, you know, we've worked with Sarah, and you put a case together and go, yeah, of course, you know, there's a market for that. It's going to save 250 million over the next 5 years. Let's do it. So we have to do these filters. So we do this. After our Spark sessions, we look at all the different ideas, and then we're running through this. And unfortunately, we kill a lot of them, but they get logged in there because the market's not there, you know. Some people are not interested in some things now, but maybe in 2 years' time they come back. So we keep a hopper and keep looking at them. Some of them are not viable because the hydraulic pump you've got doesn't work, etc. But it's to explain. But some of the problems we've got now, some of the things we're working on now, weren't viable because there was no long-term energy. When we solve long-term energy and do proof of concept this year, those projects will get started again because there's projects related to late life well things and stuff like that if you can't make them last long enough. Hopefully this works. So I'm wrapping up now. I told you I wouldn't speak for 20 minutes. So here's a diagram of a patent. It's an example how even if you have an idea, you don't have to see it through. An idea goes out there, the people and join it up. This is, it's called a frequency hopping thing, and it's basically what's behind the technology and all Wi-Fi and secure communications. It was developed back in World War II, looking at communicating between submarines. So the inventor was this lady, Heather Lamar. So she was a very, very famous actress. She was regarded at the time as being the most beautiful woman in the world. And she caused a lot of controversy because I think in one film you could see just above her knee. It was that times where that was kind of a bit excessive. And for whatever reason, she got involved in electronics research. So her and somebody she was working with developed this. So they pitched it to the Navy, and she was a woman, so they weren't interested. And she wasn't part of the Navy, so they definitely weren't interested because they went and pitched it again without her involved. And they're like, you're not in the Navy. So, you know, she went on, did her films, did lots of other things. And then Stanford University picked up the research after the war, and it's fundamental to how we communicate wirelessly between our phones and lots of other things, how that's secure now. And she did live to see that, which is good. So it's kind of an example that she had an idea with the people she worked with, but it never came to a product. So if you have an idea, just get it into your company's system, because you never know. Next week, your colleague might come along and go, my client's got this problem, and then your system go, yeah, we solved it last week, but we didn't know anybody had that problem. You can join it up. And it's all about mixing. So you need to make sure you're mixing these ideas, sharing them with the people in your business who see the problems, see the solutions, which very rarely it's the same people. How many of your product developers are meeting with clients on a regular basis? They're probably not. They're in your workshop. Your client-facing team's out meeting the clients. You need to join up them, saying to clients what you're struggling with, what can you help you with, you know, here's a solution we've got, ideas. So finally, I would challenge you all to go back to your teams and just give them a bit of chance. So just try and come up with some ideas. I'm not expecting you to give people 40 hours a week to come up with crazy ideas, but say Friday afternoon, take half an hour and see if you can come up with a better way of doing it and see, you know, maybe they'll come up with something not so. I met with Ray Riddick just before Christmas, who's the MD of Nexum. And they've done a very similar thing with all the companies, said, come up with better ideas. So one of his guys came and said, if you give me a special wheelbarrow offshore, I can probably save an hour a day on what I'm doing. And it was a couple of £100. So he said, go on, get it. And they gave him some time. So it could have failed. He actually saved 2 hours a day. And because of that approach and other things they've done, they now have no maintenance backlog on any of their platforms. They actually have capacity in their maintenance teams, which is almost unheard of. So if companies at that level can achieve it, they've got their lift costs down, etc. And they've got this real culture of allowing people to say, oh, actually, I could do that better. And they don't feel stupid to suggest it. So that's kind of where we are. And just remember, you know, this is kind of me, stay curious. If anybody wants to talk about this more, I'm more than happy to engage with you and speak with you in your companies and help you. I was speaking to Stephen Shield here as well, and we may look to do some sort of event here where we kind of help teams. So that's what we've done, and the results have been pretty good. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks very much, John. And you're well under your 20 minutes, so you get bonus points for that too. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go into the Q&A now. Sarah, you're going to come down as well, so you can take any questions, if it's an OGTC type question, just to help John out a bit too. We'll share a mic. So if anybody does have a question, when you, first of all, pop your hand up, then we'll get a mic to you. And we do ask you to use the mic because we're recording it and we need the mic to capture. And let us know who you are and where you're from, and then ask your question. So any questions for John or Sarah? This gentleman here.
Hi, Gordon Bhatia, Survey Innovation Lead, Dove Subsea. In the create section you had earlier, which percentage of things that are perceived as being created come from other industries? Yeah,
I'm a big fan of getting away from the fact that oil and gas knows all the answers to our problems, because flowing challenging fluids through pipeworks exists in lots of other industries, from biomedical right to process. So one of the solutions we have in a downhole power generator is inspired by something we stole from a cruise ship, how they manage fast rotating parts in an environment where you can't service. So we we generally start the spark sessions by looking at something innovative and creative from another industry. So last one we looked at Elon Musk not when he put a car on a rocket, but we looked at the fact that, he landed a rocket. Like, so we looked at, what the technical challenges were in that. And our focus on that was looking at how people cope with failure. Obviously they crashed that rocket hundreds of times before it took off. So yeah, we do try and embrace other industries. And I think, there's been some work done here on that recently, looking at robots and digital things. So.
Okay, next question. This gentleman here.
Hi, I'm Jim Farrington from Iris Geo. One of the main things that we come up against is inertia, getting companies, getting potential clients to change and adopt our technologies. We find that the techies, the geos, the geophysicists, the engineers go, yay, that's great, we want it, we need it. Goes up to the management, and the management said, well, we've had a 15-year relationship with these other guys, and we've got all the documentation in place. Any recommendations for getting around that?
Yes and no. No, because I don't know the people, so I don't know motivation. But I would say with anything, you've just got to be more compelling, and it's challenging. So I was at an SP event before Christmas, and all the technology developers moaned about operators not running the technology. They went, nobody run it first. And it comes back to getting your technology adopted. You've just got to make it more compelling, and it's difficult because you believe in it. You've just got to get in those shoes and work out how it is. But yeah, it's not easy. Not easy to overcome that. But sometimes in management, you need to go and say, we can make you more money. We're simply interested about, you're making 10% now, but if we do this new technology, you're making 20%. Sometimes that can wake them up.
Question here from James.
Hi, James Bream from Mintlaw and the Chamber of Commerce as well. The three people that you've said were the inventors, apart from yourself, obviously, who you've put yourself in that space. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about your health and safety person, and how have they felt safe and and got into that.
So at the moment, it's not evolved. We've not evolved our Spark into a company-wide culture. It's building. But my view is that we stop having the lunch session. So we do it as a lunch session like this, where we sit in a couple of groups, we go through the challenge, we break it up. I kind of facilitate it. So we feel safe in that specified environment. Go, right, we've got 2 hours, feel safe and permission. What goes in the room stays in the room. We don't record whose ideas they were at that point, and people chat. I would like it to evolve where people felt safe in a normal day, so they could just sit with a cup of tea and come up with the idea. But culture takes a long time to develop. So Joyce is a health and safety assistant. She's mid to late 30s with a kid. She's been a health and safety assistant all her life and would never imagine. Matthew, the supply chain director, is ex-military. He's got a mechanical engineering degree, but he would probably say he was the most stereotypical, boring, make it a little bigger, do the calculation engineer. He would not imagine he would create something. Although I found out last week he's a really good painter. But they were both really thrilled and shocked that what they did. And they didn't just come with the idea. We've actually then spent time with them to evolve that idea. Because part of the process is not for me to steal their ideas and go, thanks. Is that we're very clear, if you have the idea, you're coming on the journey with us till we get filing, and they will follow it through. So we're going to have a meeting with Ogic next week. They're going to be there. They need to follow it through. I'm not expecting them to commit a lot of time, but it's their idea, and you've got to get people to ownership. So.
And this gentleman here at the front, just tell us who you are and your question, please.
Hello there. I'm Nicola from Smart Crowd. So we're a web app that helps lots of organisations, not specifically to oil and gas, develop ideas with their people. Just referring back to what you said about ideation's not siloed. As far as we're concerned, but there's lots of organisations who have siloed innovation where only managers or intelligent people are seen as being able to come up with ideas that help grow their organisation. So just going back to that piece of innovation with Heather Lamar, we had a client recently, so my wife uses our solution in her job, and they gamify their ideation across the whole staff. So they've developed a culture of innovation, and they give 5% reward to the net saving in that organisation. So somebody came up with this fantastic idea, just a person sitting in a call centre, come up with a fantastic idea where he saw a problem that nobody else saw. No manager saw it, no director saw it. This is a national organisation. And the idea he came up with, I can't give you the detail of it, obviously, but the idea he came up with saved the organisation £1 million a year. 3 weeks ago, the chief executive came to Glasgow to present that person with a cheque for £50,000 that allowed him to put a deposit on a property.
Yeah.
But lots of organisations don't give that platform for people to give ideas. They think that ideas reside in silos, but they can't change the culture because that's what they believe. So I was wondering how you view that in the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great example. It's probably replicated in that a lot of our gas companies I know are very siloed and have people. We don't have enough people to do the jobs anymore because of where we are, so people are struggling and very much concentrate. Where we've managed it, I think that sort of bonus incentive is great, and I think as an industry we should ban annual bonuses and people should be rewarded for what they do ad hoc related to projects and achievement and stuff, but anyway, that's a separate discussion. Where we manage it is we've got a thing called Tendeka Gold, and it's kind of like Tesco Club Card points, but when you do something in a business you accrue points. So if you put a safety observation card in, you get 50 points. If you come up with an idea in this, you get 100 points. If the patent gets filed, you get 300. And if you get 1,000 points, you get a day off. Or you can get a new iPhone, you know, different points. Or you can get a weekend away in a hotel, so you can cash the points in for things. And that's how we kind of manage that sort of short-term thing. So the individuals involved in this have ended up getting a couple of days off, which to me, days off are quite valuable to me. So that's how we sort of manage that. But yeah, people need to be incentivised in the short term for these things. But hopefully as culture comes about, we shouldn't need to incentivise people to be creative. You maybe just reward them afterwards for the results as a team. So.
I have a quick question, if I may.
Oh, okay.
Just coming in from the side. You spoke a little bit about the importance of giving people permission to be innovative or even to fail. And I think, if I heard right, I think you also said it's all but mandatory.
Yeah, we
tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I think in a lot of people's job descriptions, it has something about must do other jobs as done. And in some of our job descriptions, it says must continually look to improve. But nobody actually sits down and realises that's what they should be doing. So I think in your team meetings, you should be pushing people to say, you've got to come up with better ideas. Don't sit there moaning about it. If you've got a problem with it, sort it out. And you've got to make it manage. Don't say, if you want to come up with that idea, great, because people don't. You need to go and say, come up with the great ideas. We need to be successful as a business. We've got, we've been attacked by all the other companies. It's a difficult market everybody's in. So just say, you've got to come up with some good ideas.
Understand. Thank you. Any other questions? Go.
Hi, I'm Kirsty Laing from Apollo. You spoke there about the financial rewards and days off and things, but do you think being part of these creative processes also have value from the point of view of engagement? And do you think that could be useful, particularly the few years we've had with engaging people within our businesses? Oh,
massively so. These sessions, even for the people who haven't then invented stuff, have been a lot of fun. And people are keen. I don't have enough time to do as many sessions as the group want to. So, we like problem statements, but we're gathering more of them. And, they're really good fun. Because it's team building. So back on my other hobby horse, I'm not a big fan of going shooting clay pigeons or driving cars as team building because you're not using your skills to build a team. These things use the skills that people have got within the business with the colleagues, but doing something quite different. So it brings out skills of different people. So I've now actually got 2 people in my organisation who will facilitate the next one. And the next Spark Club, I'm just going to send an email, invite out, and I'll be doing something else. Because they've kind of gone, actually, I really want to be involved in this. It's not those 2 people, it's 2 quite junior people. And I'm like, go on then, get on with it. I'm keen that it's not about me in the company as well. So hopefully going forward I can weasel out of it a bit. But I know some of the people in your company, so I used to work for Jonathan, and a lot of my inspiration about trying to do things better, and that was kind of my first start. In one of my first starts in oil and gas was learning from him about how to be creative and how to think, actually, the clients ask for one thing, but actually, what is the best way of doing it and thinking and being creative. So.
Okay, we've got a couple more minutes. This gentleman here.
Hi, John. I'm Xavier from Thermoswell. I have a slight concern. You said that there has to be a mixed function between the asking and or serving people and the creative people. And there are a lot of organizations who are currently engaging in that activity, like putting in contact those kind of 2 different parts of the innovation process. but I have the feeling that this mix people should be truly independent, and yet they are sponsored by certain companies or certain organizations. That is concerning.
It can be. In some organizations, that'll just happen naturally between people. There's not separate. I'm not saying there are 5 separate people. Some people don't. Some organizations, there might be 6 people in the company, so you'll just readily mix it. OGTC sit in that space. They're sitting in between technology developers and operators. Simplicity, operators have the problems, technology have the solutions. So there's calls for ideas based on, we've got loads of these challenges. Can anybody help us with them? And then I'm coming along with ideas to Sarah and saying, do you think we could do this? And she's like, yeah, go and speak to these people. So, different models. So, I'm a mixer. That's kind of where I sit in the group. So I do a few of the other things as well, but that's my role.
Thanks.
Okay, we've got time for one more question, if anyone has anything.
I'm waiting for a really difficult one from Sarah. But
I can ask it to both of you if you want. It's Malcolm Banks from the OGTC. I guess my question was really, I like the idea, as you say, of bringing in that diversity of thought from across your own organisation, bringing that different perspective in. What are your thoughts about the value that might come from expanding that to bring in diversity across different companies, to bring different ideas and potentially even broader through different industries to bring totally different ways of thinking into our own oil industry?
Yeah, simplistically, we should be doing it. So it's difficult to be collaborative because everybody's frightened of IP and sharing. It's quite easy to deal with in some ways if you discuss it first. But I've seen these things happen in events we've had here, and I think going forward there'll be more events where problems come along and share them. But as an organisation, we may invite other people in to help us. So if we move into perhaps a chemical arena, we may have some chemical subject matter experts to help us deal with those things. So it should be flexible. We may look at doing something here on different ideas, on using some of the same methods. These are our methods that work with us, with the people we've got. Something different, and it's all about not just having a prescribed method. It's about sitting with your company and working out what's going to work for us. And you might get 6 people in your company of 100 say, I'm interested in that, so you end up with a small club. We thought our numbers would reduce down, and actually they've got bigger. So there was only 3 people didn't come to the last one, and because they're out of the country. So that was quite hard to manage. Thank you.
I was going to say, do you want me to, I suppose, adding on that from our perspective, we found, one of the last workshops we did, we were very, I think as an industry, we're really good at defining the problem, and we love to collaborate when we're complaining about something or finding an issue, and everyone's really happy to chip in with what's wrong. As John said, the difficulty comes with collaboration when we're trying to come up with solutions, when there's IP involved, when there's business competition involved. And I know we ran a workshop here not that long ago where we were looking at solutions, and we had people from all different types of companies involved. And actually the key to getting people to work was almost stepping back into that, the 2%, the 98%, that childlike mentality of actually just really enjoying understanding what the problem is and trying to solve it. And because everybody in the room is collaborating, and if people want to take that away and develop it, then it's free to go out of that room. While you're in the room, you will work on it together, and then you can take what we do as a room and develop it, because in a one-day workshop, you're never going to get something to the point at which is a commercially available project. You've got glimpses of ideas, and I think that's a stage where we need to be, step out of our kind of silos, and that's my idea, and actually, get that kind of childlike mentality about trying to fix the problem and trying to play with it. And if people want to commercially take those ideas afterwards and really push them forward because they think they've got merit in it, then open it back up to the market at that point. Thanks.
Okay, I think that's us pretty much out of time for this morning or afternoon. So a couple of things. Obviously, I want to say great thanks to John and also to Sarah, so please just show your thanks.
Thank you.